The morning light on Saturday, March 23rd came through my bedroom window, with that painful clarity that only days meant to change your life forever have. I didn't know it then. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, hands trembling as I held my phone, staring at the screen without really seeing what was there. I was wearing my old blue cotton robe, the one with a small coffee stain near the hem that I'd never been able to wash out completely. My feet were bare against the cold wooden floor, and I could feel each imperfection in the boards beneath my soles. The phone rang, not buzzed, rang. An actual call which nobody did anymore at 7 in the morning unless something was terribly wrong. Hello? My voice came out rough, scratchy from sleep. Heavy breathing on the other end. Then a sob, choked and desperate. Sarah. It was barely a whisper. Sarah, please. I sat up straighter, my spine going rigid. Emma? Emma? What's wrong? My twin sister. My other half. The beautiful one, the lucky one, the one who was supposed to get married in exactly 8 hours to Richard Ashford Harrison III. Billionaire real estate developer, philanthropist. The man every magazine in the country had called the catch of the century. 500 guests were already gathering at the Rosewood estate. The cake was a 6-tier masterpiece that cost more than my car. The flowers alone could have fed a family for a year. I need you, Emma whispered, and I could hear her teeth chattering. I need you to come, right now. Don't tell anyone. Please, Sarah, please. Where are you, Emma? You're scaring me. I'm at the house. His house. The estate. But not the main building. There's a maintenance building behind the gardens, past the rose maze. The one with the green door. Sarah. I found something. Her voice broke completely then, dissolving into sobs that made my chest ache. I'm coming right now. Stay where you are. Don't move. I was already pulling off my robe, grabbing yesterday's jeans from the chair where I'd tossed them. My hands fumbled with the zipper. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard, I thought it might crack right through. Emma and I had been born 4 minutes apart. She came first, perfect and pink and screaming with life. I came after, quieter, smaller, the one the nurses worried about. Our mother used to say Emma got all the sunshine and I got all the shadows. She didn't mean it cruelly. It was just true. Emma had golden hair that caught light like honey, blue eyes that sparkled when she smiled, a laugh that made everyone in a room turn to look. I had the same features, technically, same hair, same eyes, same face, when you looked at us side by side. But somehow on me it all came out muted, softer, forgettable. Emma got scholarships. I worked 3 jobs to pay for community college. Emma got modeling offers. I got asked if I could pass her number along. Emma got Richard Ashford Harrison III, with his family money going back 6 generations, his penthouse in Manhattan, his summer home in the Hamptons, his charitable foundation, his face on the cover of Forbes magazine. And I got to watch her transformation over the past 18 months, from my little sister who used to steal my clothes and tell me secrets into someone I barely recognized. Someone who wore dresses that cost more than my monthly rent. Someone whose hair was always perfect, whose nails were always done, who smiled with her mouth, but not quite with her eyes anymore. I told myself I wasn't jealous. I told myself I was happy for her. I told myself a lot of things that weren't completely true while I drove my 15-year-old Honda Civic through the quiet streets of Millbrook at 7:15, on a Saturday morning, still wearing the t-shirt I'd slept in under a hastily grabbed sweater. The Rosewood estate was 40 minutes outside of town, up a winding private road that cut through forests so thick you couldn't see the sky. Richard owned 300 acres here. The main house was a Georgian mansion with white columns and windows that gleamed like diamonds. I'd been there twice. Once for an engagement party where I'd felt like a stain on the marble floors in my department store dress. Once for a rehearsal dinner where I'd sat at the family table and watched Richard's mother look at Emma like she was evaluating a purchase. I drove past the main house now, following Emma's directions. My tires crunched on gravel. Morning mist hung low over the manicured lawns, and I could see workers already setting up white chairs in neat rows on the south lawn. The wedding was at 3 o'clock. Everything was ready. Everything was perfect. Except my sister had called me crying, her voice raw with terror, and told me she'd found something. The rose maze was exactly where Emma said it would be. A sprawling network of 8-foot hedges with late spring blooms just starting to open. I parked my car behind a maintenance shed, where it wouldn't be visible from the main drive, and got out. The morning air was cold against my face. I could smell roses and fresh cut grass and something else underneath. Something that made my stomach clench with nameless dread. The building with the green door was tucked behind a stand of old oak trees, barely visible unless you knew to look for it. It was stone-weathered, with ivy growing up one side. The kind of building that had probably been there for 100 years, serving some forgotten purpose. The door was slightly ajar. "Emma," I called softly, pushing it open. The interior was dark. I fumbled for my phone, turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through shadows, illuminating rough stone walls, a narrow staircase leading down. "Down here." Emma's voice floated up from below, hollow and strange. I descended carefully, one hand on the damp wall for balance. The stairs were steep, uneven, old. The air grew colder with each step, and that smell got stronger. Not roses anymore. Something chemical. Cleaning products maybe. And underneath that, something else, something organic and wrong. The stairs opened into a basement. A finished basement which surprised me. The walls were painted white. There was carpet on the floor, industrial gray, and there was light, fluorescent and harsh, coming from a long hallway that stretched ahead. Emma was standing at the end of that hallway, still wearing her silk pajamas from the night before. Her feet were bare. Her hair was tangled. She turned when she heard me, and the expression on her face made me stop breathing. "I came early this morning," she said. Her voice flat now, drained of emotion. "I wanted to surprise him. I had a key. I've had a key for 6 months. He gave it to me and said I should feel at home here, that everything he owned was mine. So I came early. I was going to make him breakfast. I was going to tell him how happy I was." She laughed, a sound like glass breaking. "I got lost looking for the kitchen in the East Wing. This place is so big. 23 bedrooms, did you know that? 23. And I got turned around and I found a door I'd never seen before. A door that was locked, which was strange because Richard always said there were no locked doors for me, that I could go anywhere. And she swallowed hard. I know his codes. I've seen him punch them in, so I opened it. And there was another staircase. And it led down. And I thought maybe it was a wine cellar. Or maybe it was where he kept his art collection, because he has so much art, Sarah. So much beautiful art." "Emma," I walked toward her slowly, the way you approach a wounded animal. "Emma, what did you find?" She turned back to the hallway, raised one shaking hand, pointed to a door. It was white, plain, with a small window set high in the frame. The kind of window you might see in a hospital, or a cell. "Her name is Catherine," Emma whispered. "She's been here for 7 years. The world tilted. I reached out to steady myself against the wall, but the wall seemed too far away, and I was falling. Except I wasn't falling. I was just standing there while my brain tried to process words that didn't make sense. "What?" "There are 3 of them." Emma's voice was mechanical now, reciting facts like she was reading from a list. "Catherine, Melissa, Yuki, they're his wives, Sarah. They're all his wives. He married them, and then he brought them here, and he locked them in these rooms, and he told them they could never leave. That if they tried, he'd kill their families. Catherine's parents think she moved to Europe. Melissa's mother thinks she's traveling Asia. Yuki's sister thinks she's living in New York. They've been here 7 years, 6 years, 4 years. Just here. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. They have beds," Emma continued in that horrible flat voice. "Nice beds, comfortable, and bathrooms attached. Everything's clean. He brings them food, good food. He brings them books, movies, whatever they ask for. He comes down and talks to them, sits with them, tells them he loves them. And they can't leave. They just can't leave." "Emma," I finally found my voice. It sounded like someone else's voice, coming from very far away. "Emma, we need to call the police, right now. We need to." I talked to them. Emma turned to face me fully. And I saw her eyes were red-rimmed, bloodshot, wild. I went in each room. I sat with them. Catherine thought I was another one at first. Another wife. She started crying and saying she was sorry, that she didn't want another sister, that it was hard enough already. And Melissa just stared at me. She doesn't talk much anymore, Catherine says. She used to, but then she stopped. And Yuki grabbed my hand and begged me to get her out. She begged me, Sarah. She's 24 years old. She's been here since she was 20. My knees went weak. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the cold floor, my back against the painted stone. Why would he? How could he? He collects beautiful things. Emma's laugh was brittle, sharp. Haven't you noticed? Everything in his life is beautiful. The art, the cars, the houses, the women. He sees something beautiful, and he wants to own it. Really own it. Not just marry it, and let it walk around free. Own it, keep it, make sure it stays beautiful and perfect, and his forever. She walked toward me, sank down beside me. Her hand found mine, cold and clammy. I'm supposed to marry him in 8 hours, she said. 500 people are waiting. The dress costs $60,000. My bouquet is made of orchids flown in from Thailand. And after the wedding, after the reception, after we cut the cake and do the first dance and throw the bouquet, he's going to bring me here. Not tonight maybe. Maybe not for a few weeks. But eventually, when I'm completely his, when I've signed all the papers and there's no way out, he's going to bring me down here and he's going to lock me in a room and I'm going to become wife number 4. No. The word came out fierce, definite. No, that's not happening. We're calling the police right now. With what evidence? Emma's voice cracked. The doors aren't locked right now, Sarah. He only locks them when he leaves. When he's here they're free to move around the basement. There's a common area around the corner. Did you see it? A living room with a TV and bookshelves and a nice rug. They can cook in the kitchen. They can talk to each other. They're not chained up, they're not injured. They're just kept. And Richard is brilliant. Whatever legal framework he's created, it will be airtight. He probably has documents they signed. Prenups with clauses. Something. And even if the police believe us, even if they arrest him, his lawyers will have him out in hours. His family will close ranks, and those women's families will die. He'll make sure of it. He's told them that for years. Catherine watched him show her pictures of her parents' house. He described in detail what he'd do to them if she ever tried to escape. He's not bluffing, Sarah. Men like Richard don't bluff. I pulled my hand from hers, pressed both palms against my face. My skin felt too hot, my thoughts too slow. What about after? I said. What about tomorrow, next week? When you don't show up at work, when people start asking questions. He's already laid the groundwork. Emma's voice was bitter. Haven't you noticed, over the past few months, he's been talking about how I want to step back from my career, how I want to focus on charity work, on being a wife, on starting a family. He's been telling everyone I'm tired, that the spotlight is too much, and everyone believes him because he's Richard Ashford Harrison. And why would he lie? After the wedding, I'll disappear gradually. Fewer public appearances, fewer calls, and eventually, people will just assume I'm living my quiet, perfect life as Mrs. Harrison. No one will question it. No one will care enough to dig. I would question it. My voice shook. I'm your sister. I would know. Would you? Emma looked at me, and her eyes were so sad. You've barely called me in 6 months, Sarah. We used to talk every day and now it's maybe once a week. You're angry with me. You think I've changed. You think I've become someone you don't recognize. And you're right. I have changed. Because I've spent 18 months trying to be perfect enough for him. Trying to fit into his world. Trying to become the kind of woman who deserves all of this. And in the process I've pushed away everyone who actually loved me. If I disappeared, you'd probably think I just moved on. Got too important for my old life. That's not true. But even as I said it, a small horrible part of me wondered if it was. Emma stood up, brushed off her silk pajamas. It doesn't matter now, what matters is that I can't marry him. I can't walk down that aisle and put that ring on my finger and become his property. But I also can't just cancel the wedding. He'd know something was wrong. He'd know I found out. And those women would pay the price. Then what do we do? I stood to my legs unsteady beneath me. Emma, there has to be something. There is. She turned to face me, and something in her expression made my blood run cold. You marry him instead. The words hung in the air between us, Impossible and insane. What? We switch. Emma grabbed my shoulders, her fingers digging in. We've done it before. Remember in high school? I took your calculus final. You went on that date with Tommy Henderson for me when I had the flu. We're identical, Sarah. Exactly identical. If you put on my dress, if you do your hair and makeup like mine, no one will know the difference. Not in the chaos of a wedding. Not with 500 guests. Not even Richard. Not until it's too late. Emma, that's crazy. That's... While the wedding is happening, I'll get them out. Her words came faster now, urgent and desperate. I'll get Catherine and Melissa and Yuki out of here. I'll take them somewhere safe. And then I'll call the FBI. Not the local police, the FBI. Because this crosses state lines. Because these women are from different states. Because this is kidnapping and false imprisonment and human trafficking. And by the time Richard realizes what's happening, by the time he figures out that you're not me, the FBI will already be at the reception. They'll arrest him in front of everyone. His family, his friends, the press, everyone will know what he is. I stared at her. My brain was screaming that this was impossible, that it would never work, that there were 1,000 ways it could go wrong. But I looked past her down that white hallway, at those doors with their small windows, and I thought about 3 women who'd been locked in those rooms for years. Years. While the world went on without them. While Richard smiled for cameras and donated to charity and was called a good man. He'll know, I said weakly. He'll be able to tell I'm not you. He won't. Emma's voice was fierce. He doesn't know me, Sarah. Not really. He knows the version of me I've shown him. The perfect version, the one who smiles and agrees and never argues. You can be that person for a few hours. Just a few hours. That's all I need. And what happens to me when he finds out? When the FBI shows up and he realizes? You'll be surrounded by people. 500 people. He can't hurt you. He won't dare. And the second the FBI arrives, you run. You get as far from him as possible. You tell them everything. You're a witness. A victim. You saved those women. My hands were shaking again. I shoved them in my pockets. Felt the rough denim against my palms. I can't do this, I whispered. Yes, you can. Emma pulled me close, wrapped her arms around me. She smelled like fear and expensive shampoo. You're the strong one, Sarah. You always have been. I'm the pretty one, but you're the strong one, the one who survives. Please, please, I'm begging you. Those women are begging you. Catherine has 2 little brothers she hasn't seen in 7 years. Melissa's mother is dying of cancer, and she doesn't even know her daughter is 20 miles away. Yuki wants to go to college. She wants to study art. She wants to have a life. Please, don't let them stay in those rooms. Please, don't let him win. I closed my eyes, took a breath. Another. Thought about my sister, my other half, walking down an aisle toward a monster. Thought about 3 women in white rooms, watching the years slip past. Thought about my ordinary life, my little apartment, my boring job at the insurance company, my Friday nights with takeout and Netflix. My safe, small, forgettable life. Okay, I heard myself say. Okay, we'll do it. Emma pulled back, her face transformed by a smile that was half relief and half terror. We have to move fast, she said. The wedding is at 3. It's almost 8 now. I need to get those women out. You need to become me. We went back up the stairs together, Emma leading the way. The basement door closed behind us with a soft click that sounded like a coffin lid. Outside, the morning had grown brighter. Workers were stringing lights in trees. Someone was testing the sound system, a brief blare of music that cut off abruptly. My things are in the bridal suite in the main house, Emma said. East wing, 2nd floor. The blue room. Everything you need is there. The dress, the shoes, the jewelry. Margaret from the salon is coming at noon to do hair and makeup. Just sit there and let her work. Don't talk too much. I've been quiet lately anyway. Everyone thinks I'm nervous. Emma. My phone is on the dresser. The password is 0304. That's the day we were born. Richard's number is saved as my love. She made a face. If he calls or texts, keep your answers short. I love you, can't wait. That kind of thing. He's been at his mother's house since yesterday. Some ridiculous tradition about not seeing the bride before the wedding. He won't come back here until it's time to go to the venue. What about your bridesmaids? What about, they're all getting ready at the hotel in town. They'll meet us at the estate at 2. My maid of honor is Richard's cousin Patricia. She doesn't like me much. Just smile at her and let her fuss. She'll do most of the talking. Emma was speaking fast. Her words tumbling over each other. Planning mode. The same mode she'd used when we were kids and got in trouble. When she'd figure out exactly what to say to our parents to make things right. We reached my car. Emma stopped, turned to face me. I need to tell you something, she said. Something you need to know before you do this. What? The vows. She swallowed hard. Richard wrote our vows, both his and mine. He told me what to say. He gave me a card with the words on it, and he said I should memorize them, that it would be more romantic. And the words are, she trailed off, looked away. They're about obedience, about belonging to him, about forsaking everything else. It's not obvious, not in a way anyone would really notice, but the meaning is there. When you say those words, when you promise those things, you need to know that you're promising nothing, that none of it is real, that it's all just playing a part. I know that, Emma. I'm not actually marrying him. I'm just, no, you don't understand. She grabbed my hands again. The moment you say I do, something changes legally. I've signed so many documents over the past 6 months. Friendships and agreements and trusts. Richard's lawyers have been very thorough. And there's something about proxy marriage in there. Some clause I didn't fully understand. If you go through with the ceremony, if you say the vows and sign the license, there might be legal implications. Complications. I don't know exactly what, but Richard's lawyers don't do anything without reason. Cold dread settled in my stomach. Then we can't do this. If it makes me legally. The FBI will sort it out. Emma's voice was firm. Once they arrest him, once they see what he's done, they'll invalidate everything. But you need to be careful. After the ceremony, during the reception, don't sign anything else. Don't agree to anything. Just smile and play the part until the FBI arrives. How will you even contact the FBI? How? Catherine knows everything. Emma's expression hardened. She's been planning for years. She has names, numbers, evidence she's compiled. She's been waiting for someone to help her. I'll get her to a phone, and she'll make the call. They'll come. I promise they'll come. I wanted to ask more questions. I wanted to know every detail of the plan. But the sun was rising higher, and time was slipping away, and Emma was already pulling her phone from her pocket and handing it to me. Go, she said. Go to the bridal suite. Lock the door. Don't let anyone in until Margaret arrives at noon. Eat something, practice smiling like me. I smile with my whole face. You smile with just your mouth. Work on that. What about you? I'm going to get them out. I'm going to save them. She kissed my cheek quickly. And you're going to save me. We're going to save each other, the way we always have. Then she was running, disappearing back toward the maintenance building. And I was standing alone beside my car with her phone in my hand and a plan so insane it might actually work. Or it might destroy both of us. I drove around to the front of the mansion, my heart hammering so hard I could barely breathe. A young man in a staff uniform asked if he could help me. And I realized I needed to start being Emma right now, not later now. I'm the bride, I said, and the words felt like lies in my mouth. I came early. I'm going to the bridal suite. His face transformed. Of course, Miss Miller. Congratulations. Do you need help with anything? No, thank you. I just want some quiet time before everything starts. He beamed at me. It's going to be a beautiful day. Mr. Harrison is a lucky man. I forced my mouth into a smile. Emma's smile, wide and bright and empty. Thank you. That's so sweet. Inside, the mansion was exactly as cold and perfect as I remembered. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, art on every wall that probably cost more than most people made in a lifetime. My footsteps echoed as I climbed the curved staircase to the second floor. The blue room was at the end of a long hallway, behind a door marked with a placard that read Bridal Suite in elegant gold script. I locked the door behind me, and leaned against it, suddenly dizzy. The room was huge. A four-poster bed dominated one side, draped in white silk. There were windows overlooking the gardens, where I could see the wedding venue being prepared. white chairs in perfect rows. An arch covered in flowers. An arch covered in flowers. A dance floor that gleamed in the sunlight. And there, hanging from a hook on the wardrobe, was the dress. I walked toward it slowly, as if it might bite. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Ivory silk and lace, with a fitted bodice and a skirt that looked like it would flow like water. The kind of dress you saw in magazines. The kind of dress that cost more than a year of my salary. The kind of dress that was supposed to make dreams come true, not become a costume for a nightmare. Emma's phone buzzed in my hand. A text message. Morning, my love. Counting the hours until you're mine forever. I love you more than words can say. Richard. My stomach turned. I typed back with shaking fingers. I love you too, can't wait to be your wife. 3 dots appeared immediately. He was typing. You've made me the happiest man alive. I promise to spend every day showing you how much you mean to me. Tonight, when we're finally alone, I'm going to tell you all my secrets. All the things I've been waiting to share with my wife. My skin crawled. I set the phone down on the dresser before I threw it across the room. Tonight, when we're finally alone. That's when he would have told Emma. When he would have shown her the basement. When he would have explained what her new life would be. Maybe he would have framed it as romantic, as protection, as love. Men like Richard were good at making evil sound like devotion. I looked at myself in the full-length mirror. I looked like me, plain Sarah, with her unbrushed hair and her rumpled clothes, and her face bare of makeup. In 7 hours, I needed to look like Emma. Perfect Emma, glowing Emma. The bride everyone expected to see. I could do this. I had to do this. I found Emma's makeup case in the bathroom, an expensive designer thing filled with more products than I'd ever owned in my life. Foundation and concealer and highlighter, and contour and powders and brushes and things I didn't even have names for. I stared at it all, overwhelmed. Emma and I had the same face, but she knew how to make that face into something special. She knew where to put the shadow, how to make her eyes look bigger, her cheekbones higher, her lips fuller. I'd watched her do it 1,000 times growing up. Her bent over the bathroom sink we shared, me hovering in the doorway asking if I could borrow a hair tie. I picked up a brush. Put it down. Picked up a tube of something labeled luminizing primer. Put it down. This was insane. I couldn't do this. Someone would know. Richard would know. One look at me. And he'd... The phone buzzed again. Not Richard this time. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me swipe to accept. Hello? Is this Emma? A woman's voice, soft and shaking. Yes, I said, committing to the lie. This is Catherine. Your sister said I could call this number. She said you're doing something very brave today. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. You're out? Emma got you out. We're in her car. All 3 of us. She's driving us to a hotel in Hartford. She said we'd be safe there, that no one would think to look for us there. And then she's going to call the FBI. She's going to tell them everything. Catherine's voice cracked on the last word, and I heard her take a shaking breath. I need you to know something, she continued. I need you to understand what you're doing, what you're risking. Richard is... He's not like other people. He doesn't think like other people. When he finds out what's happened, when he realizes you tricked him, he won't just be angry. He'll be destroyed. And Richard destroyed is very, very dangerous. I know, I said. Though I didn't, not really. No, you don't. Catherine's voice got stronger. I've had 7 years to study him. 7 years of watching him bring me meals and sit with me and talk about his day like this was normal. Like I was his wife and this was our home. And everything was fine. He believes it, do you understand? He really believes that what he's doing is love. That keeping us safe and beautiful and his is the highest form of devotion. When that illusion breaks, when he realizes it was all lies, he'll either shatter completely or he'll become something much worse. What do you want me to do? My voice came out small. I want you to be careful. I want you to make sure you're never alone with him, not even for a second. I want you to run the moment the FBI arrives. Don't try to talk to him, don't try to explain. Just run, and don't look back. Promise me. I promise. Thank you. Catherine was crying now. Soft sobs that broke through her words. Thank you for giving me my life back. Thank you for believing Emma. Thank you for being brave enough to do this. I'm going to see my brothers today. After 7 years, I'm going to see my brothers. Because of you and your sister. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding the phone, tears streaming down my face. And for the first time, I truly understood what was at stake. Not just Emma's freedom, not just 3 women I'd never met, but something bigger. Something about justice and courage and the idea that monsters shouldn't get to win just because they're rich and powerful and smart enough to hide their evil behind a perfect smile. I stood up, wiped my eyes, walked back to the makeup case. And I started making myself into my sister. By 11:30, I looked like a stranger. My hair was pulled back in the loose updo Emma always wore, with a few carefully arranged curls framing my face. My eyes were lined and shadowed and enormous. My lips were the perfect shade of pink. My cheeks had that glow magazines were always talking about. I looked like Emma on her best day. Like a bride from a fairy tale. Like a liar and a fake and a woman walking into hell with her eyes wide open. Margaret from the salon arrived at exactly noon, a whirlwind of energy and chatter. She had 2 assistants with her, both carrying cases of equipment. "Oh honey, you've already started," Margaret exclaimed when she saw me. "And you've done such a lovely job. But let's refine it, shall we? Make you absolutely perfect for your perfect day." I sat in the chair she indicated and let her work. She talked the entire time about the weather and the venue, and how romantic it all was. I made sounds of agreement at appropriate moments. Her assistants fussed over my hair, adding pins and spray and tiny white flowers that looked like stars. "You seem calmer than I expected," Margaret said, painting something on my eyelids with a tiny brush. "Most brides are basket cases by this point. But you're serene, like you've found your center." "I know this is right," I said, and it wasn't a lie. "I know exactly what I need to do today." "That's beautiful. That's just beautiful. Richard is such a lucky man." If she only knew. By 1 o'clock I was done. Margaret and her assistants packed up their things, gave me careful hugs that wouldn't disturb my makeup, and left with promises that I looked like a princess. I locked the door behind them and stood in front of the mirror again. I looked exactly like Emma. Exactly, it was uncanny and disturbing and perfect. The dress came next. I stepped into it carefully, pulled it up, felt the silk slide over my skin like cool water. The zipper went up smoothly. It fit perfectly because Emma and I were the same size, same height, same everything. The girl at the bridal shop who'd done the alterations had joked that Emma should bring her sister in, that they could probably sell us on matching dresses. The veil was gossamer light, held in place by a crystal tiara that probably cost more than my car. The shoes were Louboutins with red soles and heels so high I had to practice walking in them. The jewelry was all diamonds, real diamonds. Emma had shown them to me once, laughing as she told me the necklace alone was insured for more than our parents' house. At 1:45, there was a knock at the door. "Emma, honey? It's Patricia. Can I come in?" I took a breath, another. Smoothed my hands over the dress. "Of course." Patricia swept in with the energy of a tornado, followed by 3 other bridesmaids. I vaguely recognized from the engagement party. They were all in pale pink dresses, all perfectly coiffed, all talking at once about how beautiful everything was. "Oh my God, Emma, you look incredible." Patricia grabbed my hands, looked me up and down. "Richard is going to die. He's literally going to die when he sees you." "That's so sweet," I said, Emma's voice, Emma's smile. "Are you nervous?" "You must be nervous. I was a wreck at my wedding, couldn't stop shaking. But you look so calm." "I feel good, I feel ready." "That's the spirit. Now we have 45 minutes before we need to head down. Let's get some photos up here. The photographer is waiting in the hallway, and then we have that ridiculous schedule Richard's mother made. You know how she is about schedules." I did know. I'd heard Emma complain about it enough times. Mrs. Harrison II had planned this wedding with military precision. Every moment accounted for. Every detail perfect. No room for chaos, or spontaneity or anything that might suggest her precious son was marrying beneath him. The photographer came in, a nervous young woman with 3 cameras around her neck. She positioned us by the window, adjusted the light, took what felt like 1,000 photos of me holding my bouquet, looking pensive, looking happy, looking out at the grounds. Beautiful, she kept saying. So beautiful. You're glowing, Emma. Absolutely glowing. At 2:30 Patricia's phone buzzed. It's time. The cars are ready. We processed down the main staircase like a parade. Patricia in front, the other bridesmaids behind her. Me in the back like a prize being presented. Staff members lined the hallway, smiling and applauding. Someone had rose petals scattered on the marble floor. Everything was exactly as it should be for a fairy tale wedding. Except the prince was a monster, and the princess was a fake, and the happily ever after was about to become a crime scene. The car that was waiting for me wasn't a car at all. It was a vintage Rolls-Royce, white and gleaming, with ribbons tied to the hood. The driver opened the door with a bow. Patricia and the bridesmaids had their own car. Sleek and black. "We'll see you there," Patricia called. "Don't be nervous, it's going to be perfect." I climbed into the Rolls-Royce alone. The door closed with a heavy thunk. The interior smelled like leather and roses. There was a bottle of champagne in a bucket of ice, 2 crystal glasses beside it. The driver's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. "Ready, miss?" "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." The drive from the main house to the wedding venue was only 5 minutes down a tree-lined path that had been decorated with white ribbons and more flowers. But those 5 minutes felt like an eternity. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands were sweating inside my white gloves. I kept thinking about Catherine's warning, about Richard destroyed, about what he might do when he realized the truth. But I also thought about 3 women in a hotel in Hartford, free for the first time in years. About Emma, safe somewhere calling the FBI, bringing down everything Richard had built on lies and imprisonment and evil disguised as love. The venue came into view, and my breath caught. It was stunning. The white chairs were filled with 500 people in their finest clothes. The flower arch was massive, covered in roses and peonies and orchids in shades of cream and blush. A string quartet played something classical and beautiful. The sun was shining through the trees, creating patterns of light and shadow on the grass. And at the end of the aisle, standing under that arch of flowers with his back straight and his smile perfect, was Richard Ashford Harrison III. He was handsome, I'd give him that, tall and fit, with dark hair that was just starting to silver at the temples in a way that looked distinguished rather than old. He was wearing a tuxedo that had probably been made by some Italian tailor whose name I couldn't pronounce. His shoes gleamed. His cufflinks caught the light. He looked like every woman's dream. He looked like a nightmare wearing an expensive suit. The car stopped. The driver came around to open my door. I could hear the music changing, shifting to the wedding march. This was it. This was really happening. I stepped out of the car, and 500 people stood up. My father was waiting at the start of the aisle. Except it wasn't my father. It was Richard's father, because Emma's father, our father, he died when we were 19, a sudden heart attack that took him from us in an afternoon. Our mother had followed 2 years later, cancer that ate through her too fast for any treatment to help. We'd been alone for 5 years, just the 2 of us, Emma and Sarah against the world. But Richard's father didn't know that. He was standing there with tears in his eyes, ready to walk his daughter-in-law down the aisle, believing this was all real. Believing his son was a good man marrying a good woman. "You look beautiful," he whispered as I took his arm. "My son is very lucky." "Thank you," I managed. And then we were walking, one step, another, another. The aisle was long, so long, I could see every face as we passed. Richard's mother in the front row, dabbing at her eyes with a lace handkerchief, his sister beaming. His friends from Yale and Harvard and whatever other prestigious institutions produced men like him. Emma's friends from college, from work, from life, all of them believing this was real, all of them celebrating a marriage that was a lie. Richard was watching me with such intensity I could feel it like a physical weight. His smile was wide, genuine. He looked at me like I was the most precious thing he'd ever seen. And I remembered what Catherine had said. He really believes it. He really believes that what he's doing is love. That made it worse somehow. If he'd been cruel, if he'd been obviously evil, it would have been easier, but he looked at me with love in his eyes, and I knew that in his twisted mind, locking women in basements was the same as protecting them. Keeping them was the same as cherishing them. Stealing their lives was the same as giving them something precious. We reached the arch. Richard's father placed my hand in Richard's. His fingers were warm. His grip gentle. "Hi," he whispered. And his voice was soft with emotion. "You're here, you're finally here." "Hi," I whispered back. The officiant began to speak. Something about love and commitment, and two people becoming one. I didn't hear most of it. I was too focused on keeping my breathing steady, on keeping my smile in place, on not letting Richard see that the woman in front of him wasn't Emma at all. He was looking at me like I hung the moon, like I was everything he'd ever wanted. And I realized with sick clarity that this was how he'd looked at Catherine the first time. At Melissa, at Yuki, this same expression of wonder and possession and love, that wasn't love at all. "The couple has chosen to share their own vows," the officiant said. "Richard, if you'd like to begin." Richard pulled a card from his pocket, but he didn't look at it. He had it memorized. "Emma," he said, and his voice carried across the lawn to every guest. "From the moment I saw you, I knew you were different. Special, the kind of woman who comes along once in a lifetime. You're beautiful, yes, but more than that, you're kind, you're smart, you're everything I've ever wanted. And today I'm making you a promise. I promise to love you forever, to protect you always, to keep you safe from anything that might hurt you, to give you everything you need, to make sure you never want for anything. You're mine now, Emma, and I'm yours. For the rest of our lives we belong to each other." 500 people sighed in appreciation. Someone in the back actually said "ah" out loud. I wanted to be sick. The officiant turned to me. "Emma, your vows." I pulled the card from where I'd tucked it into my bouquet. Emma had been right. The words were beautiful on the surface. Poetic. Even. But underneath, if you knew what to look for, they were horrifying. I looked down at the card, looked up at Richard. His eyes were shining with tears. And I made a decision. "Richard," I said, and I didn't read from the card. "I stand here today making you a promise. I promise to be honest with you, always, to never let lies or deception come between us. I promise to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it costs me everything. I promise to protect the vulnerable, and fight for those who can't fight for themselves. And I promise that truth will always matter more than appearances. That's my vow to you. Truth always." Richard's smile flickered slightly. Something passed behind his eyes. Confusion maybe, but then he was nodding, squeezing my hands. "Beautiful," he murmured. "That's beautiful." The officiant continued. "Something about rings. Richard's best man produced them, 2 platinum bands that gleamed in the afternoon sun. Richard slid mine on my finger. It was tight, uncomfortable. A shackle disguised as jewelry. "Do you, Richard Ashford Harrison, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" "I do." His voice was strong, certain, full of conviction. The officiant turned to me. This was it. The moment where everything changed. "Do you, Emma Catherine Miller, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" In my head I could hear Emma's voice. "Those women are begging you. Please don't let them stay in those rooms." I could hear Catherine. "Thank you for giving me my life back." I could hear my own voice, from hours ago. "Okay, we'll do it." "I do," I said clearly. "Then by the power vested in me by the state of Connecticut, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Richard, you may kiss your bride." Richard pulled me close, one hand cupping my face with surprising gentleness. His lips met mine, and for a moment I forgot to pretend. I stiffened, pulled back slightly. His eyes opened, he looked at me strangely. Then 500 people erupted in applause, and the moment was broken. Richard was grinning again, raising our joined hands in the air like we'd won something. "Ladies and gentlemen," the officiant announced, "I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Richard Harrison." The string quartet launched into something triumphant. We turned to face the crowd, and I saw so many smiling faces, so much joy. All of it built on lies and ignorance and evil that wore a perfect mask. We walked back down the aisle together. Richard's hand on my lower back. People were throwing rose petals. A little flower girl was crying happy tears. Everything was exactly as it should be for a perfect wedding. Except my sister was somewhere with 3 rescued women calling federal agents. Except the man beside me had committed crimes that should put him in prison for the rest of his life. Except I'd just married a monster, and in about an hour his world was going to explode. The reception was in a massive tent behind the main house. All white silk and crystal chandeliers and tables covered in more flowers than I'd ever seen in one place. Our table was on a raised platform, just Richard and me, like we were royalty presiding over our subjects. The next hour passed in a blur. Photographs with Richard's family, his arm around my waist, his smile never faltering. The receiving line, where I shook hands with what felt like hundreds of people, all of them congratulating me, telling me how beautiful I looked, how happy they were for us. Richard's mother kissed my cheek and told me I was part of the family now, that the Harrison women took care of each other. If she only knew. The first dance was to some classical piece Richard had chosen. He held me close, whispering in my ear about how perfect this day was, how he couldn't wait for tonight, for our honeymoon in Bali, for the rest of our lives together. His hand was on my back, warm through the silk of my dress, and I had to fight not to flinch away. "You seem tense," he murmured. "Are you all right?" "Just overwhelmed," I said. "It's a lot, I know, but soon it will just be us. Just you and me the way it's supposed to be. The way it's supposed to be. In a basement. In a locked room. Forever." The food was served. 7 courses, each one more elaborate than the last. I pushed things around my plate, unable to eat. Richard noticed. "You need to eat something, darling. You barely had any breakfast." How did he know what Emma had eaten for breakfast? Unless he'd been watching. Unless he tracked her every move, every meal, every moment. The thought made my stomach turn. "I'm just too excited," I said, Emma's voice. Emma's smile. "That's all right, we'll have a big dinner tomorrow. I'm taking you somewhere special. A surprise." A surprise. I wondered if Catherine and Melissa and Yuki had gotten surprises too. If he'd taken them to special places before bringing them to that basement. If he'd made them feel loved and special and chosen before locking them away. The toasts began. Richard's best man told stories about their college days. His sister talked about what a wonderful brother he was. How generous, how kind. Patricia gave a toast about friendship and finding your perfect match. Every word felt like a knife. And through it all I kept watching the entrance to the tent, waiting for the moment when federal agents would come streaming through. But they didn't come. 4 o'clock. The cake was cut, a massive 6-tier creation with fondant flowers and gold leaf. Richard fed me a piece, gentle and sweet, wiping frosting from my lip with his thumb. 4:30, the bouquet toss. I threw the orchids into a crowd of single women, and a bridesmaid from college caught it with a squeal of delight. 5 o'clock, still no FBI. Richard was relaxed now, laughing with his friends, his arm around my shoulders. He'd had a few glasses of champagne, not enough to be drunk, but enough to be loose and happy, and thoroughly convinced that everything in his world was exactly as it should be. "I need to use the restroom," I said during a lull in conversation. "I'll come with you," he said immediately. "No, it's fine, I can manage the dress myself." "Are you sure?" His hand tightened on my shoulder. "I don't mind waiting outside." "I'm sure, I'll just be a minute." I could feel his eyes on me as I walked away, navigating through the tables toward the house. The restroom closest to the tent was in the east wing. I locked myself in a stall and finally let myself breathe. Where was Emma? Where were the FBI? It had been over 2 hours since the ceremony. What if something had gone wrong? What if Richard's lawyers had gotten to them first? What if... My phone buzzed, except it wasn't my phone. It was Emma's phone, which I'd tucked into a hidden pocket in the dress. A text from an unknown number. "FBI is 20 minutes out. Catherine had to give a full statement first. They needed details before they could get a warrant. Hold on, almost there. 20 minutes. I could do 20 minutes. I washed my hands, reapplied my lipstick with shaking fingers. I looked at myself in the mirror. The perfect bride. The happy wife. The biggest liar in this mansion full of lies. When I came out of the restroom, Richard was waiting in the hallway. My heart stopped. "I got worried," he said, his smile apologetic. You were gone longer than I expected. The dress is complicated. Of course. Here, let me help you back to the reception. He offered his arm. I took it because I had no choice. We walked together down the marble hallway, his body warm beside mine. I have something to tell you, he said as we walked. Something I've been waiting to share. Oh? My voice sounded strange even to my own ears. A secret, about the house. About our life together. I was going to wait until tonight, but I can't. I'm too excited. I want to show you something right now. Something special. Oh God. Oh God. Can it wait? I tried to keep my voice light. The guests, they won't miss us for a few minutes. Please, Emma. This is important. This is something I've been planning for so long. He was steering me away from the tent now, toward a different part of the house. The west wing, toward the door that led to the basement. I knew that's where we were going. I could feel it. Richard, I really think we should get back. Just 5 minutes. That's all I need. Please, darling. For me. His hand on my arm wasn't gentle anymore. It was firm, insistent. I thought about Catherine's warning. Make sure you're never alone with him, not even for a second. We were alone. The hallway was empty. Everyone else was at the reception, drinking champagne and eating cake and celebrating a marriage that was built on nightmares. Richard. Here we are. He stopped in front of a door. An ordinary door. Unremarkable. The kind of door you'd pass 100 times without noticing. He punched in a code on the keypad beside it. I watched his fingers. 1103. November 3rd, the day he'd proposed to Emma. The door swung open, revealing stairs leading down. After you, darling. I didn't move. Couldn't move. Richard's expression changed. The smile stayed in place, but something behind his eyes shifted. Something cold and calculating and very, very alert. Emma. His voice was still gentle, but there was a question in it now. A test. Is something wrong? I don't want to go down there. Why not? It's just the lower level. There's something I want to show you. Something beautiful. I want to go back to the reception. In a minute. First, this. It's important. His hand was still on my arm. His fingers tightened, just slightly. Not enough to hurt, just enough to remind me that he was stronger than me. That we were alone. That no one knew where we were. I'm your wife now, I said, and I tried to make it sound playful. Doesn't that mean I get a say in things? Of course. His smile widened. Of course you get a say, and I'm sure once you see what I have to show you, you'll understand. You'll be happy, I promise. He was pulling me toward the stairs now, gentle but inexorable. I had two choices: go down into that basement with him, into those rooms, into the place where he kept his collection of beautiful things, or fight. Scream, run. But if I fought, if I screamed, if I ran, what would he do? Would he let me go, or would he drag me down there anyway, and this time make sure I never left? And the FBI was still 20 minutes away. Maybe less now, maybe 15. If I could just stall him, if I could just keep him talking. Wait, I pulled back, and this time I put some force into it. Wait, Richard, I need to tell you something first. He stopped, turned to face me fully. His expression was curious now, that calculating look more pronounced. What is it, darling? I'm not Emma. The words hung in the air between us. For a moment Richard just stared at me, then he laughed. A sound of genuine amusement. What a strange thing to say. Of course you're Emma. You're my Emma, my wife. No, I'm Sarah, Emma's twin sister. We switched places this morning. Emma isn't here. His laughter died. The smile stayed on his face, but it was frozen now, a mask that no longer quite fit. That's not funny. It's not a joke. Emma found your basement. She found Catherine and Melissa and Yuki, and right now they're all giving statements to the FBI. And the FBI is on their way here. To arrest you. For kidnapping. For false imprisonment. For everything you've done. Richard's face went blank. Completely blank. It was like watching someone turn off a light switch. Then he moved so fast, I barely saw it. One hand grabbed my throat, not hard enough to choke me, but hard enough to make it clear he could. The other hand grabbed my wrist, twisted it behind my back. He slammed me against the wall, his body pressed against mine, his face inches from my face. Where is she? His voice was low, controlled, terrifying in its calmness. Where is Emma? Safe, I gasped. Far away from you. And those women? Where are they? Safe, free, telling people what you did. Something flickered across his face. Pain maybe. Or rage so deep it looked like pain. They weren't supposed to leave, he whispered. They were safe here. I kept them safe. I gave them everything. I loved them. You imprisoned them. I protected them. His voice rose now, cracking. The world is cruel and ugly and it ruins beautiful things. I saved them from that. I gave them a place where they could stay beautiful forever. Where no one could hurt them. Where they would always be mine. They're people, not possessions. His hand on my throat tightened. My vision started to blur at the edges. You ruined everything, he said, and now his voice was flat again. Dead. You and your sister. You took them from me. You destroyed what I built. Do you have any idea how long it took to create that sanctuary? How carefully I planned. How much I loved them. That's not love, I choked out. That's not. What do you know about love? His face was so close to mine I could see every detail. The flecks of gold in his brown eyes. The fine lines at the corners. The tiny scar on his chin. He looked human. He looked normal. He looked like anyone's husband, anyone's son, anyone's friend. You're nobody. You're the shadow sister. The one nobody notices. Emma told me about you. How jealous you've always been. How hard it must be to watch her live, the life you'll never have. And now you've destroyed everything. For what? Some misguided sense of justice. Some desperate attempt to feel important. My lungs were burning. Black spots danced in my vision. And then from somewhere in the house, I heard voices. Shouting. The crash of doors being thrown open. FBI. Everyone stay where you are. Richard's head snapped toward the sound. His grip on my throat loosened just enough for me to suck in a desperate breath. They're here, I gasped. It's over. He looked back at me, and the expression on his face was terrible. Lost and furious and broken all at once. It's not over, he said. It's never over. Then he was running, pulling me with him, down the stairs into the basement. I tried to fight, tried to pull away, but he was so much stronger. We tumbled down the steps together, my dress tearing, my veil falling off. At the bottom he dragged me down that white hallway, past those doors with their small windows. The rooms were empty now. The beds were made. Everything was clean and perfect and vacant. His sanctuary was a ghost town. They left, he said, and he sounded like a child who'd lost his favorite toy. They left me. Let me go, Richard. Please. The FBI is here. This is over. Let me go and maybe. Maybe what? He laughed. A sound devoid of any humor. Maybe they'll go easy on me. Maybe I'll get a nice cell where I can think about my mistakes. No, I don't think so. He pulled me into the last room. Yuki's room, I realized. The newest one. There were books on the shelf, a laptop on the desk, a painting on the wall, something abstract in shades of blue. Evidence of a life lived in captivity. Richard locked the door behind us. The click of the lock was loud in the small space. What are you doing? My voice was shaking now. All pretense of calm gone. Ending this, he pulled something from his pocket. A phone. He dialed a number, put it on speaker. It rang 3 times before someone answered. Mr. Harrison, a man's voice clipped and professional. Marcus, I need you to initiate Protocol 7. A pause. Sir, are you certain? Protocol 7 is. I know what it is. Do it now. Sir, the consequences. Now, Marcus. Yes, sir. Initiating Protocol 7. The line went dead. Richard looked at me, and his smile was back. But it was wrong now. Twisted. Do you know what Protocol 7 is? He asked, conversationally. I shook my head, terror clawing at my throat. It's my insurance policy. My lawyers set it up years ago. If certain conditions are met, if I give certain codes, a series of events are triggered. Encrypted files are sent to specific people. Documents are released. Evidence of indiscretions. Photographs. Videos. The kinds of things that destroy lives. Whose lives? I whispered. The families, Catherine's brothers, Melissa's mother, Yuki's sister, everyone they love. Within the next hour, those people will receive packages, digital and physical, containing evidence that will ruin them, fabricated evidence of crimes they didn't commit, financial fraud, child abuse, murder, all of it completely fake, but convincing enough to destroy them. The police will investigate, there will be trials, their lives will be over. You're lying. Am I? He tilted his head. Marcus has been my personal attorney for 15 years. He's very good at his job, very thorough, and very well compensated to never ask questions. Protocol 7 has been in place since the beginning. Since Catherine, I told her about it on her first day here. I told her what would happen if she ever left. And now she's left. And now her brothers will pay the price. You can't do that. You can't do that. I already have. His voice was calm again. It's done. Unless what? Unless you help me. Footsteps were thundering above us now. Voices shouting for Richard to come out. The FBI had reached the basement door. Help you how? I was crying now, tears streaming down my face, ruining Emma's perfect makeup. Tell them I didn't do anything wrong. Tell them those women are lying. Tell them they came here voluntarily. Tell them you're Emma and you love me and this is all a misunderstanding. Do that and I'll call Marcus back. I'll stop Protocol 7. Those families will be safe. I can't do that, they'll never believe. They might not believe you immediately, but you'll create doubt, you'll complicate things. The investigation will take longer, and in that time my lawyers will work their magic. We'll claim the women had Stockholm Syndrome. We'll claim they're mentally unstable. We'll settle quietly. And yes, I might face some consequences. But small ones, manageable ones. And those families will be safe. The door at the top of the stairs crashed open. I could hear footsteps coming down. Choose, Richard said. Right now, save those families, or let them be destroyed. What's it going to be, Sarah? I thought about Catherine's brothers. About Melissa's dying mother. About Yuki's sister who was probably so happy right now. So relieved to have Yuki back. And I thought about Richard, standing there with that calm expression, knowing he'd found the one weapon I couldn't fight. The one thing that would make me hesitate. FBI, hands up. 3 agents burst into the room, weapons drawn. They were wearing tactical gear, their faces hard and professional. Richard raised his hand slowly. That smile still in place. Officers, there seems to be some confusion. Mr. Richard Harrison, you're under arrest for kidnapping, false imprisonment, and conspiracy to commit human trafficking. You have the right to remain silent. This is my wife, Richard interrupted, gesturing to me. Emma Harrison, tell them, darling, tell them there's been a mistake. The agents looked at me. I could see in their faces that they already knew I wasn't Emma. They'd talked to Emma. They'd seen the real Emma. But Richard was trying to create confusion, trying to plant doubt. I'm Sarah Miller, I said, and my voice came out stronger than I expected. Emma's twin sister. I took her place at the wedding so she could get those women to safety. And Richard just called someone named Marcus. He has some kind of protocol, something that's going to hurt the families of the women he imprisoned. You need to stop it. One of the agents was already on his radio. We need a location on Marcus Whitmore, Harrison's personal attorney. Possible witness tampering in progress. And get me a judge. We need an emergency injunction. Richard's smile faltered. You can't stop it. It's automated. Even Marcus can't stop it now. We'll see about that. The lead agent moved forward, pulling cuffs from his belt. Mr. Harrison, turn around. It's too late, Richard said. But he was turning, letting them cuff him. It's already done. Those families are already being destroyed. And it's your fault, Sarah. You did this. You and your sister. You ruined everything and now innocent people will pay the price. No. I stepped forward. No. You're the only one responsible for this. You're the one who kidnapped those women. You're the one who locked them up. You're the one who built this nightmare. Whatever happens now, it's all on you. He looked at me over his shoulder as they led him toward the door. And I saw something in his eyes that made my blood run cold. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even hate. It was satisfaction. He wanted this, I realized. He wanted to go out like this, a victim of persecution. A man destroyed by ungrateful women who didn't appreciate everything he'd done for them. In his mind, he was the hero of this story. Right up to the end. They took him away. An agent stayed with me, kind and professional, asking if I was hurt, if I needed medical attention. I told her I was fine, which was a lie. I wasn't fine. I wouldn't be fine for a very long time. Outside, the reception had dissolved into chaos. 500 guests were being detained for questioning. Richard's mother was screaming that this was impossible, that her son would never. His sister was crying. His father looked like he'd aged a decade in an hour. And there, standing by one of the FBI vehicles, was Emma. She saw me and ran. We crashed into each other, arms wrapped tight, both of us crying. "You did it," she sobbed into my shoulder. "Oh God, Sarah, you did it." "He has something," I said urgently. "Some protocol, something that's going to hurt the families. The FBI is trying to stop it, but I don't know if they can." Emma pulled back, grabbed my face between her hands. "They'll stop it. They have to." Catherine gave them everything, every document, every record, every sick detail of what he did. "There's no way his lawyers can make this go away. He's done, Sarah. He's really done." I wanted to believe her, but I kept seeing Richard's face, that expression of satisfaction as they led him away. The FBI agents, who'd been working on stopping Protocol 7, found me an hour later. I was sitting in the back of an ambulance, a blanket around my shoulders, still wearing the torn wedding dress. "We got an injunction," the lead agent said. His name was Rodriguez, and he had kind eyes. "Marcus Whitmore has been ordered to shut down whatever systems he put in place. We've seized his computers, his phone, everything. We're confident we can stop the materials from being distributed." "Confident?" I repeated. "Not certain." His expression was regretful. "We're doing everything we can, but Harrison had years to plan this. His attorney was thorough. Some files may have already been sent. We're contacting the families now, warning them, putting protections in place. But I won't lie to you, there may be some damage." I closed my eyes. "How much damage?" "We don't know yet. We're working with Cybercrimes Division. With any luck, we'll contain it before anything catastrophic happens." With any luck, that's what we were down to. Luck. Emma squeezed my hand. "It's still better than before. Those women are free. Richard is in custody. Whatever happens next, we stopped him from hurting anyone else." She was right. I knew she was right, but it felt hollow somehow, like we'd won a battle but lost the war. The next few days were a nightmare of a different kind. The story broke everywhere. National news, international news, social media exploded with theories and think pieces and hot takes. Richard Ashford Harrison III, billionaire philanthropist, was actually a serial kidnapper who'd held 3 women prisoner for years, and his new wife had discovered the truth and orchestrated his capture with help from her twin sister. Except I was the new wife, legally. I'd married him, I'd signed the license, and that created complications no one had anticipated. "The marriage isn't valid," Emma's lawyer explained. We were sitting in a conference room at his office. Emma on one side of me, a FBI victim advocate on the other. "You signed Emma's name, not your own, and there was no meeting of the minds. You entered into the contract under false pretenses, meaning to expose Harrison's crimes. Any judge will invalidate it." "But until then?" I asked. "Until then, technically, you're married to a man awaiting trial for kidnapping and false imprisonment, which means his lawyers might try to claim spousal privilege, might try to prevent you from testifying. It's a long shot, but they're going to try everything." "Can they stop both of us from testifying?" Emma asked. "No, you weren't at the wedding. You can testify to what you found in the basement, what the victims told you." "But Sarah," he looked at me sympathetically. "They're going to argue that you married Harrison willingly, that whatever you saw or heard after the ceremony is protected by marital privilege." That's insane. That's the law. It's complicated, and it's messy, and frankly, it's never been tested in a case like this. But be prepared for it to get ugly. Ugly didn't begin to cover it. Richard's lawyers filed motion after motion. They claimed the women had come to the Harrison estate voluntarily, that they'd entered into alternative lifestyle arrangements with Richard's full disclosure, that they could have left any time they wanted but chose to stay. They produced documents, NDAs signed by all three women, agreements that were carefully worded to suggest consent. He made us sign them. Catherine testified at a preliminary hearing. The first week we were there. He said it was just a formality, that it would protect us and him. He said if we really loved him we'd sign. And we did, because we didn't understand. Because we still thought this was just different, not wrong, not yet. The media coverage was brutal. Some outlets treated Richard like a monster. Others questioned whether the women were telling the truth. Why hadn't they escaped sooner? Why hadn't they called for help? One cable news host suggested that maybe they'd enjoyed being taken care of. That maybe this was all just regret after the fact. Emma and I couldn't go anywhere without being recognized. Reporters camped outside our apartment. My job at the insurance company asked me to take a leave of absence, not wanting the attention. Emma lost modeling contracts. One agency actually suggested she was too controversial now. But worse than any of that was the waiting. Waiting to see if Protocol 7 could be fully stopped. Waiting to see if Catherine's brothers would be arrested for crimes they didn't commit. Waiting to see if Melissa's dying mother would be accused of fraud in her final months. Waiting to see if Yuki's sister would lose her job, her reputation, her life. 3 weeks after the wedding, Agent Rodriguez came to see me at our apartment. We stopped most of it, he said without preamble. Maybe 90%. But some files got through before we could block them. Yuki's sister received a package. False evidence of embezzlement at her workplace. Her employer has suspended her pending investigation. My stomach dropped. Can you prove it's fake? Eventually, but the damage is done. She's under scrutiny. Her reputation is compromised. Even after we prove it's fabricated, that stain will linger. This is my fault. I could barely get the words out. If I hadn't... No. Rodriguez's voice was firm. This is Richard Harrison's fault. All of it. He built this system. He activated it. You saved 3 women from years more of captivity. Maybe saved future women from ever being taken at all. What happened to Yuki's sister is terrible. But it would have been so much worse if you and Emma hadn't acted. I wanted to believe him. But at night when I couldn't sleep, I kept seeing Richard's face. That satisfaction. That certainty that even in losing he'd won. The trial started in November, 8 months after the wedding that wasn't a wedding. The prosecution had built a case that should have been airtight. 3 victims with consistent stories. Physical evidence from the basement. Financial records showing Richard had purchased the special locks, the monitoring equipment, everything needed to keep those women trapped. Testimony from household staff who'd been told never to go in the basement, that it was Mr. Harrison's private space. But Richard's lawyers were good. Very good. They argued that the women had stayed because they wanted to. That they'd been free to leave any time. That the locks were for privacy, not imprisonment. They produced character witnesses who swore Richard was generous and kind. They questioned why the women hadn't simply walked out when Richard was at work, when the doors weren't locked during the day. Because he told us he'd kill our families. Catherine said from the witness stand, her voice shaking. Because he had files on all of them. Pictures of their homes, their schedules. He knew where my brothers went to school. He knew what time my father left for work. He described in detail what he'd do to them if I left. And I believed him because I'd seen what he was capable of. I'd seen the coldness in his eyes when he talked about protection and possession. I knew he wasn't bluffing. But you never tested that theory, did you? Richard's lawyer, a sharp woman in a severe suit, raised an eyebrow. You never tried to leave to see if he'd follow through. Would you risk your family's lives to test a theory? Catherine shot back. Would you gamble with your mother's safety? Your brothers? I'm asking the questions here, Miss Chen. The judge intervened before Catherine could respond, but the damage was done. The lawyer had planted doubt. Maybe the women had been too afraid to leave, but maybe they'd also been comfortable. Maybe they'd liked the nice rooms and the good food and the lack of responsibility. When it was my turn to testify, Richard's lawyers went after me with everything they had. You admit that you intentionally deceived my client, correct? I took my sister's place to help her. Yes. You married him under false pretenses. To expose his crimes. You don't have legal training, correct? You're not a police officer or a licensed investigator. No, but, so you took it upon yourself to conduct a vigilante operation. To trick a man into marrying you so you could what? Play hero. I took his place so Emma could free 3 women he'd been holding prisoner. Allegedly holding prisoner. That's what this trial is determining, isn't it? But you'd already decided he was guilty. You'd already appointed yourself judge and jury. Tell me, Miss Miller, did it ever occur to you that maybe you were wrong? That maybe your sister misunderstood what she saw? She didn't misunderstand. Those women were locked in rooms. They couldn't leave. That's not a misunderstanding. Those women were in a relationship with my client. An unusual relationship perhaps, but a consensual one, and you destroyed it. You destroyed my client's life. You destroyed his reputation. You destroyed his marriage before it even began, all based on your interpretation of a situation you didn't fully understand. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them about Richard's hand on my throat, about the coldness in his eyes, about the way he'd activated Protocol 7 knowing it would hurt innocent people. But the judge had ruled that inadmissible. What happened after the ceremony, after I revealed the truth, wasn't relevant to the question of whether Richard had kidnapped and imprisoned those women before. The trial lasted 6 weeks. 6 weeks of testimony and cross-examination and expert witnesses debating whether the women had really been held against their will, or whether they'd just been in an alternative relationship they later regretted. In the end, the jury convicted Richard on 2 of the 3 kidnapping charges. Catherine's case was solid. Melissa's was strong, but Yuki's was weaker. She'd been there the shortest amount of time. She'd signed more documents. The jury couldn't unanimously agree that she'd been held against her will beyond a reasonable doubt. Richard was sentenced to 15 years in prison. With good behavior, he could be out in 10. 10 years for stealing, 7 years from Catherine, 6 years from Melissa, 4 years from Yuki. 10 years for trying to steal the rest of Emma's life. 10 years for creating a system designed to destroy families if he was caught. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. I was in the courtroom when they led him away in handcuffs. He looked at me one last time and that smile was back. That satisfied smile. He'd lost his freedom, but he'd kept his money. His lawyers had made sure of that. The civil suits filed by Catherine, Melissa and Yuki were tied up in appeals. Richard's assets were protected by a maze of trusts and offshore accounts. He'd go to prison, yes. But he'd go there knowing he was still a rich man, knowing his family's name would survive, knowing that in some circles he'd be seen as a victim of vengeful women and overzealous prosecutors. That night, Emma and I got drunk in our apartment, a bottle of cheap wine between us. We saved them, Emma said, her words slightly slurred. We actually saved them. For 10 years, I said bitterly. Then he gets out. By then Catherine will be 37. Melissa will be 36. Yuki will be 34. They'll have lives, real lives, careers and relationships and experiences he can never take away from them again. Unless he comes after them when he gets out. He won't. But Emma didn't sound certain. He can't. Everyone knows who he is now. Everyone knows what he did. He can't just make women disappear anymore. Can't he? I thought but didn't say. Men like Richard always found a way. Maybe not the same way. Maybe not kidnapping. But they found ways to hurt, to control, to possess. Rich men with wounded pride and years to plan their revenge were dangerous men. What about you? Emma asked. What are you going to do now? I'd been asking myself the same question for months. I'd lost my job. My face was too famous now to fade back into anonymity. I couldn't just go back to my little apartment and my boring life and pretend none of this had happened. I don't know, I admitted. Figure out how to live with all of this, I guess. You're a hero, Sarah. You know that, right? You saved 3 women. You exposed a monster. You're a hero. I don't feel like a hero. I feel like someone who opened Pandora's box and can't get all the evil back inside. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Catherine wants to meet with us, with you, specifically. She has something she wants to discuss. What? She wouldn't say, but she was insistent, said it was important. A week later, I met Catherine at a coffee shop in Hartford. She looked different than she had in the basement. Her hair was cut short and dyed red. She was wearing jeans and a leather jacket. She looked free. Sarah, she stood when she saw me, pulled me into a tight hug. Thank you. I know I've said it before, But thank you. Every single day I wake up in my own apartment, and I can go outside, and I can see my brothers, and I can live, because of you. You're welcome. What else could I say? We sat. She ordered coffee for both of us. I've been talking to Melissa and Yuki, she said once the barista had left, and we've been talking to other women. Women who escaped situations like ours, women who were trapped by rich men who thought they could own people. And we want to do something about it. Like what? A foundation, a real one, not a PR stunt like Richard's charity. Something that helps women escape dangerous relationships, that provides legal support, housing, counseling, everything we wish we'd had. Everything that might have helped us get out sooner. That's amazing, Catherine. We want you to be part of it. You and Emma both. We want you to help us run it. Help us figure out how to reach women who are trapped right now. How to give them hope. How to show them that escape is possible. I stared at her. I'm not qualified. I don't have any experience with. You have the most important qualification. Catherine's eyes were fierce. You know what it's like to face someone like Richard, and not back down. You know what it's like to risk everything for someone else's freedom. That's what we need. Not fancy degrees or corporate experience. Real courage, real compassion, real understanding of what we're fighting against. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm strong enough to. You married a monster to save your sister, Catherine interrupted. You stood up in front of 500 people and lied to a man who could have killed you. You did everything right, and you saved us. If that's not strong enough, I don't know what is. I looked down at my coffee, at the steam rising from the cup, thought about the past 8 months, the nightmares, the guilt, the feeling that I'd traded some women's freedom for other people's suffering, the knowledge that Richard was out there, in a comfortable prison cell, planning his next move. And I thought about Catherine sitting across from me. Free, about Melissa living with her mother, making up for lost time, about Yuki starting college, finally pursuing her dreams of studying art, about Emma, who smiled with her eyes again, who'd gotten her life back. Maybe I couldn't undo all the damage Richard had done. Maybe I couldn't stop men like him from existing. Maybe I couldn't even guarantee he wouldn't hurt someone else when he got out of prison. But maybe I could help one woman escape. Maybe I could give one person hope. Maybe I could make sure that the next woman who found herself in a locked room would know she wasn't alone. That there were people fighting for her. That freedom was possible. Okay, I said. Okay, I'm in. Catherine's face broke into a brilliant smile. Yeah, let's do this. Let's build something real. Something that actually helps people. Something that makes sure what happened to you never happens to anyone else if we can help it. She reached across the table, grabbed my hand. Her grip was strong. We're going to call it the sanctuary, she said. Not as a place to be kept, but as a place to be safe while you plan your escape. As a place where you're protected while you find your strength. As a place that belongs to you, not to someone else. I love it, I said. And I meant it. The Sanctuary Foundation launched 6 months later. We started small. An office in a repurposed building in downtown Hartford. A hotline staffed by volunteers. A network of lawyers willing to take cases pro bono. A handful of safe houses where women could stay while they planned their escapes, figured out their next steps, rebuilt their lives. Catherine ran operations. Melissa handled counseling coordination. Yuki worked on outreach and marketing, using her art degree to create materials that spoke to women in situations like theirs had been. Emma and I split our time between fundraising and direct client support, using our minor celebrity from the trial to attract donors and attention. It was hard work, exhausting work. Every day brought new stories of women trapped by men who claimed to love them, locked in houses, controlled financially, monitored constantly, told they couldn't leave or something terrible would happen to them or their families. Some stories had happy endings. We helped a woman in Bridgeport escape from her husband who'd been isolating her for 3 years. We helped a college student get away from a professor who'd convinced her she owed him everything for discovering her potential. We helped a mother of 2 leave a partner who'd been tracking her every move through her phone. Some stories didn't end happy. We couldn't save everyone. Some women went back. Some weren't ready to leave. Some left and their partners found them. But we tried. Every single day we tried. Richard sent me letters from prison. I never opened them. I gave them all to Agent Rodriguez, who said they might be useful if Richard ever violated the restraining orders all three women had against him. But sometimes, late at night, I wondered what they said, whether he was apologizing or threatening or still insisting he'd done nothing wrong. Emma said not knowing was better, that whatever was in those letters, it would just be more poison, more of Richard trying to control the narrative, trying to make himself the victim. She was probably right. 2 years after the trial, Yuki's sister's name was finally cleared. The FBI and the prosecutors had worked together to prove the embezzlement evidence was fabricated. Her employer issued a public apology and gave her a promotion. It didn't undo the 2 years of suspicion and scrutiny. It didn't undo the damage to her reputation. But it was something, it was justice, late and imperfect, but still justice. 5 years after the trial, Melissa's mother passed away. She was surrounded by family, including Melissa, who'd spent the last 5 years making up for lost time. At the funeral, Melissa gave a eulogy about second chances and stolen years and the importance of every single moment we have with the people we love. My mother didn't know where I was for 6 years. Melissa said, tears streaming down her face. She thought I was traveling the world, finding myself living my dreams. She didn't know I was 20 miles away, locked in a basement, counting days. And when I finally came home, when I could finally hug her again, we didn't waste a single moment. Every day was precious. Every conversation was a gift. I'll never get those 6 years back, but I got 5 years with her at the end. 5 years of truth and love, and being really truly present. And that's because of Sarah and Emma Miller. That's because 2 women I'd never met decided that justice mattered more than safety. That freedom mattered more than comfort. So thank you, wherever you are, thank you. Emma and I watched the funeral from the back of the church. We didn't want to intrude on the family's grief, but afterward, Melissa found us. She wanted me to give you this, she said, handing me an envelope. She wrote it last month, when she knew the end was coming. Inside was a letter, written in shaky handwriting. Dear Sarah and Emma, I never got to thank you properly for giving me my daughter back, for giving me these last 5 years with her. When she first came home, when she told me where she'd been and what had happened, I wanted to kill the man who'd done this to her. I wanted to tear the world apart. But then I realized that anger was what he wanted. He wanted to keep hurting us even from prison. He wanted his actions to poison every moment we had together. So instead I decided to forgive. Not for him, he doesn't deserve forgiveness, but for us. For me and Melissa. So we could spend our time loving each other instead of hating him. Thank you for making that possible. Thank you for being brave enough to fight a monster. Thank you for believing that my daughter deserved freedom. I hope you're both living lives that make you happy. I hope you know that you saved more than just 3 women. You saved their families too. You saved me. With all my love and gratitude. Patricia Chen. I folded the letter carefully, slipped it back in the envelope. Emma's hand found mine, squeezed tight. We did good, she whispered. Despite everything, we did something good. Yeah, I said, we did. 10 years after that March morning when Emma called me crying, Catherine called me with different news. He's getting out. I knew immediately who she meant, when. 3 weeks, early release for good behavior. He's served his sentence, he's free. My blood ran cold. What do? We live our lives. Catherine's voice was steady, strong. We don't let him take anything else from us. We've built something beautiful, Sarah. The sanctuary has helped over 500 women in the past decade. We've changed lives. We've saved lives. We're not going to let Richard Harrison take that away from us just by existing in the world again. But what if he comes after you? After any of you? Then we'll handle it. We have restraining orders. We have lawyers. We have the FBI on speed dial. And we have each other. We're not isolated anymore. We're not alone. That's what you and Emma taught us. Together, we're stronger than any monster. The day Richard was released, I didn't watch the news. Didn't read the articles. Didn't look at social media. I went to the sanctuary's office and spent the day working, talking to clients. Reviewing cases, doing the work that mattered. Emma came by around noon with sandwiches from our favorite deli. How are you holding up? She asked. I'm okay, really I'm okay. Liar. But she said it with love. It's okay to be scared, Sarah. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to wish he'd stay locked up forever. I do wish that. But Catherine's right. We can't let him take anything else from us. We've built something real, something that matters. And he's just a man. A broken, twisted man who doesn't get to control our lives anymore. Look at you. Emma smiled. When did you get so wise? When I married a serial kidnapper and lived to tell the tale. We both laughed, and it felt good. It felt like healing. Richard never contacted any of us directly. His lawyer sent a formal letter stating that he had no intention of pursuing any relationship with his former wives, and requesting that they not pursue any further litigation against him. It was cold and corporate, and exactly what I expected. But I also heard through Agent Rodriguez that Richard had moved to California, that he'd bought a small house in San Diego, that he'd taken a job as a consultant for some tech startup, that he was living a quiet life, keeping his head down. I wanted to believe it would stay that way. I wanted to believe that 10 years in prison had changed him, had made him understand what he'd done wrong. But I also remembered the satisfaction in his eyes when they'd led him away. I remembered Protocol 7 and the casual cruelty with which he'd tried to destroy innocent families. I remembered his hand on my throat and the coldness in his voice. Men like Richard didn't change. They adapted. They found new ways to hurt, new ways to control. So we stayed vigilant. We kept our security tight at the sanctuary. We made sure all our clients knew about Richard, about men like him, about the warning signs. We built networks and support systems and safety plans. And we lived our lives. Catherine met someone. A kind man who worked at the library, who loved books as much as she did, who knew her whole story and loved her anyway. They got married in a small ceremony with just close friends and family. I was a bridesmaid. Emma caught the bouquet. Melissa went back to school, got her degree in social work. She joined the sanctuary full-time, helping other women navigate the trauma of captivity and control. She was brilliant at it, patient and understanding in ways only someone who'd lived through it could be. Yuki had her first art show 2 years after Richard's release. Abstract paintings in shades of blue and white and gray, exploring themes of confinement and freedom and the space between. One painting sold for $15,000. She donated every penny to the sanctuary. Emma started dating someone too, a teacher she met at a fundraiser, who made her laugh and treated her like she was precious without trying to possess her. They took things slow, they were careful, but they were happy. And me. I threw myself into the work. The sanctuary became my life. My purpose, my reason for getting up every morning. I couldn't undo what Richard had done. I couldn't give Catherine and Melissa and Yuki their stolen years back. I couldn't stop every abuser in the world. But I could help one woman at a time. I could give them resources and support and hope. I could show them that escape was possible, that freedom was real, that they deserved to be more than someone else's possession. It was enough. Most days it was enough. 15 years after that March morning, the sanctuary celebrated its anniversary with a gala fundraiser. We'd grown beyond anyone's expectations. 5 locations across Connecticut, a 24-hour hotline, a legal team, a counseling center. We'd helped over 1,000 women escape dangerous situations. We'd changed laws, we'd influenced policy, we'd made a difference. At the gala, Catherine gave a speech that brought the whole room to tears. 15 years ago, she said, standing at a podium with a spotlight on her face. I was a prisoner, not in some distant country, not in some obvious way, but in a mansion in Connecticut, in a room with nice furniture and good food and all the books I could read. I was a prisoner of a man who claimed to love me, who said he was protecting me, who believed that owning me was the same as cherishing me. And I might still be there today, if not for 2 women, 2 sisters. Emma, who found me and my fellow prisoners and refused to pretend she hadn't seen us. And Sarah, who risked everything to help her sister save us, who married a monster to give us time to escape, who faced down evil with more courage than I've ever seen in my life. But this isn't just their story. It's not even just my story, or Melissa's, or Yuki's. It's the story of every woman who's ever been told she belongs to someone else. Every woman who's been locked up, physically or emotionally. Every woman who's been made to feel like she owes her life to a man who claims to love her. And it's the story of every woman who escaped, who found her strength, who rebuilt her life, who refused to let anyone else define who she was or what she was worth. The sanctuary exists because Sarah and Emma believed that freedom matters, that justice matters, that women deserve to be more than beautiful things in locked rooms, and in the past 15 years, we've helped over 1,000 women believe that too. So tonight we celebrate. We celebrate survival. We celebrate freedom. We celebrate the fact that monsters don't get to win just because they're rich or powerful or charming. We celebrate the truth that together we're stronger than any evil that tries to hold us down. Thank you. Thank you all for being part of this. For believing in this work, for helping us build something that changes lives. Thank you for proving that even the darkest moments can lead to light. The room erupted in applause. People were standing, crying, cheering. Emma grabbed my hand, squeezed tight. Across the room I could see Melissa and Yuki, both of them beaming with pride. We'd done it. We'd taken the worst thing that had ever happened to us and turned it into something beautiful, something that mattered, something that saved lives. That night, after the gala ended and the guests had all gone home, the 5 of us sat in the sanctuary's office. Catherine, Melissa, Yuki, Emma and me. A bottle of wine between us, plastic cups because we'd never bothered to buy real glasses for the office. To us, Catherine said, raising her cup. To surviving, to thriving, to refusing to let bastards win. To us, we echoed. We drank, we laughed, we remembered. And we planned, because there was always more work to do. Always more women who needed help. Always more monsters who thought they could get away with treating people as possessions. I heard something, Yuki said quietly after a while. About Richard. We all went still. What? Emma asked. He's dating someone, a woman in San Diego, 23 years old, beautiful, an aspiring actress. My stomach dropped. How do you know? I'd been keeping tabs on him. I know we're not supposed to. I know we're supposed to move on, but I needed to know. I needed to know if he was staying away from women, if he'd learned anything, if he was different. And Melissa's voice was tight. He's not different, he's just more careful. The woman he's dating has no idea about his past. He's using a different name now. Robert Harris instead of Richard Harrison. And from what I can see on her social media, he's already isolating her. She's posted less and less. Her friends are commenting asking if she's okay, where she's been, and she keeps saying everything's fine. She's just busy with her relationship. She's found the love of her life. Fuck, Catherine said softly. We have to warn her, I said immediately. We have to tell her who he really is. And say what? Emma asked. Hi, the man you're dating is actually a convicted kidnapper who served 10 years in prison. She might not believe us. She might think we're crazy exes or something. Richard's good at spinning stories. We have to try. I stood up, started pacing. We can't just let him do this again. We can't. Sarah's right, Melissa said. We have to at least try. Even if she doesn't believe us. Even if she stays with him, at least we'll know we tried. At least we'll have done everything we could. So that's what we did. We found her name. Emily Rodriguez. We found her address, her phone number, her email, and we sent her everything. Court documents from Richard's trial, testimony from Catherine, Melissa and Yuki, photos of the basement, the rooms, the locks, articles about the case, a personal letter from me explaining who I was, what I'd done, what Richard was capable of. We sent it all, and then we waited. A week later, I got a call from an unknown California number. Hello? Is this Sarah Miller? A young woman's voice, shaking. Yes. Who is this? Emily Rodriguez. You sent me information about Rob, about Richard, about, oh God, is it all true? Did he really do those things? Every word. I'm so sorry, Emily. I'm so sorry you're going through this. He told me his exes were crazy, that they'd made up stories about him to ruin his life. I didn't believe him at first, but he showed me articles about how the case was controversial, how people questioned whether the women were really held against their will. And I thought he was the victim. I thought he was a good man who'd been wrongly accused. He's very good at seeming like the victim. But Emily, I was there. I saw those rooms. I talked to those women. I married him specifically so they could escape. Everything we sent you is true." She was crying now, soft sobs that broke my heart. I was starting to feel like something was wrong. "He tracks my phone. He calls if I don't text him back right away. He's been suggesting I quit my job, that he'll take care of me." I thought it was romantic. I thought it meant he loved me. But it's not love, is it? It's control. "No, honey, it's not love." What do I do? How do I get away from him? "Do you have family? Friends? Anyone you trust?" "My sister. She lives in LA. She's been worried about me. She's been saying Rob seems off, but I didn't listen." "Can you go to her? Right now today?" Yes. I think so." "Then do it. Pack a bag. Don't tell him. Don't give him warning. Just go. And once you're safe, once you're with your sister, we'll help you. We have lawyers. We have resources. We'll make sure you stay safe. We'll make sure he can't hurt you. Thank you." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Thank you for warning me. Thank you for saving me." "You're saving yourself," I said. "We're just helping you do it." Emily got away. She went to her sister's, filed a restraining order, blocked Robert Richard on everything. And when Richard tried to find her, tried to show up at her sister's apartment with flowers and apologies, the LAPD was waiting. He got arrested for violating the restraining order, spent 3 days in jail before his lawyers got him out. But that was enough. That was enough to show Emily who he really was. That was enough to save her from the fate Catherine and Melissa and Yuki had suffered. And that, I realized, was what we'd been building toward all along. Not just helping women escape after they'd been trapped, but preventing them from being trapped in the first place. Catching predators before they could strike again. Using our experience, our knowledge, our resources to stay one step ahead of the monsters. We couldn't save everyone. We couldn't stop every abuser, but we could save some. We could stop some, and that had to be enough. Now, 20 years after that March morning, I sometimes think about how different my life could have been. If Emma hadn't called me crying, if I hadn't agreed to switch places at the wedding, if I'd been too scared or too selfish or too convinced that it wasn't my problem. 3 women would still be locked in a basement. Emma would be the 4th. And I'd be living my quiet, safe, forgettable life, never knowing the truth, never making a difference, never understanding what I was capable of. I'm glad I didn't choose that path. The work is hard. Some days it breaks my heart. Some days I want to quit, to run away, to pretend I never saw inside Richard's basement or felt his hand on my throat, or looked into the eyes of women whose lives had been stolen. But then I think about Catherine, married and happy and free. About Melissa helping other survivors heal. About Yuki creating art that speaks to the experience of being caged and breaking free. About Emily who escaped before she could be captured. About the 1,000 other women the sanctuary has helped over the years. And I think about Emma and me, sitting in her kitchen on Saturday mornings, drinking coffee and planning fundraisers, and remembering that we're not just sisters, we're warriors, we're survivors, we're women who looked at evil and said no. That's enough. That has to be enough. Because the truth is, we can't undo what Richard did. We can't give back the years he stole. We can't erase the trauma, or the fear, or the scars. But we can make sure he doesn't get to do it again. We can build something better from the rubble he left behind. We can show other women that freedom is possible, that escape is real, that there are people who will fight for them. We can turn a nightmare into a legacy. And in the end, isn't that the truest form of justice? Not just punishing the evil, but creating good in its place. Not just fighting monsters, but building sanctuaries. Not just surviving, but thriving. That morning 20 years ago, when Emma called me crying, when she told me about the women in the basement, when she asked me to take her place at the altar, I had a choice. I chose courage over comfort. I chose justice over safety. I chose to save my sister and 3 strangers instead of protecting myself. It was the hardest choice I've ever made. It cost me my anonymity, my simple life, my sense of safety in the world. But it was also the best choice I've ever made. Because now when I look in the mirror, I don't just see Emma's shadow. I don't just see the forgettable twin, the one who faded into the background. I see someone who mattered. Someone who made a difference. Someone who saved lives. I see Sarah Miller, survivor, warrior, founder of the sanctuary. And I see my sister's face, not just reflected in the mirror but standing beside me. Two women who refused to let a monster win. Two women who built something beautiful from something terrible. Two women who proved that even in the darkest moments there is light. We are not victims. We are not shadows. We are not what Richard Harrison tried to make us. We are free. And we're going to make damn sure every other woman who needs it gets to be free too. That's our story. That's our truth. That's our legacy. And it starts with a phone call on a March morning, a desperate plan, and two sisters who refused to look away from evil when it would have been so much easier to pretend they never saw it at all.